my dad definitely leaned into being interested in people.
He was what they call it at present. Every single time he's there and you know he's hearing you.
He was absorbing every single thing that you were saying and speaking to you as an equal at all times.
Young people have a really great bullshit radar. And so young people are going to know if, someone isn't for them.
Richard was not the kind of person who was trying to draw attention to himself, but I think he couldn't help but be magnetic.
He was a magnet, definitely. People all over Silver Spring just knew him and knew what he was about.
When he spoke quietly yet commanded attention.
He had this thing with Hawaiian shirts, but I think, that was his way of signaling to people that he was an approachable guy.
There's something about being in his presence that sort of defies words. It's like trying to describe a beautiful sunset to somebody. He just exuded unconditional love.
Richard told me the idea of starting Gandhi Brigade came from a journey that he had when he was a Peace Corps volunteer.
It was his idea to have a peace army of young people who were empowered to bring forth change that would lead to peace.
He was an active and aggressive practitioner of peace and love. And, like all of the great nonviolent activists, he saw nonviolence not as passivity and not as inaction, but rather direct action in the world, bringing people together, and a philosophy of joy and happiness and creativity and expression.
When Richard had his ideas, he wanted to capture them and have them on film or in some kind of media that he could show to other people. It was his way of translating his vision.
I remember really vividly conversations with Richard about the importance of marginalized and minoritized young people having the tools to communicate what was happening for them. We had great conversations about the importance of putting these tools in the hands of students so that they could tell their stories and tell them well.
He wanted to bring older people and younger people together to share their histories. And he convinced a local film company to give him all these video cameras.
When my dad started Gandhi Brigade, it was really small.
I was just hanging out with my best friend Jack at his house, and his dad happened just to hear about some program that was going on, and he was trying to find an excuse to kick us out of the house.
Honestly, I think the big draw for the teenagers was the video games. But he was like, okay, we have to spend the first 3 hours learning, and then we can play Warcraft 2.
He kind of saw a way to combine all of his passions, helping people, providing knowledge about things that were on the fringe. I mean, these days, you can make a documentary on your iPhone, but back in that day, you had to have the proper equipment, and then it wasn't available to everyone.
The moment I walked in, Richard gave me a camera and was just like, go out and shoot whatever you want to shoot. He didn't know me, he didn't know my address, but he just trusted me with the camera, and he allowed me to just freely do what I wanted to do with it.
Him pouring this trust into us and going, I see potential in you, and I know that with a little bit of guidance, you can do great things. You just don't know it yet, and I'm here to help you get there. Having that trust put into me as a young person also kind of built my own confidence up and helped me carve my way into who I've become.
Richard called me up on the phone and he said, would you be open to coming out and doing something with us? It would be part-time. It would be on a contract. We don't even have much of it funded yet. We both kind of took that leap of faith.
I was working at the Montgomery County Conservation Corps, telling the stories of my classmates and all the impact that it has made, not only in the youth, but also in the communities as well. The moment that he walked through those doors, I remember the feeling that it was just all love and support. This is like the sensei. This is the person that you want to impress. And as a 20-year-old kid, who hasn't really felt that kind of support growing up, I mean, you kind of just grasp onto that so hard. Like, it's so hard to let that go.
He was one of those people that really expanded the circle of inclusiveness. We talk about safe space and creating a place for community and this free exchange of ideas, but he was really forward thinking in that sense. Youth of color didn't have the space to have certain conversations out loud with each other without fear of reprisal or judgment. And it allowed people in our community to be who they really were, to be their true selves.
From the reflection of the community he managed to bring together, he has given hope and possibilities. In Richard's case, they all came together because of his vibrant presence in the community, a shared understanding, a shared belief in our common humanity. That is a powerful gift to give.
Richard was an incredibly skilled facilitator. He was sort of like the nexus of a web. He was just amazing at bringing people together and listening. There are not a lot of safe spaces where kids can just be themselves and just hang out and not get harassed, not get bothered.
Richard knew how to hang out. He totally knew how to hang out.
Him and his buddies would get together and have these like huge parties in like downtown Silver Spring with everything from wheelbarrow, water guns, build the tallest structure contest. It was just a good time with like music and like friends, and, like families.
I'm convinced that if Richard was here with us today, he'd have his own TikTok.
The organization started at a time when there was a lot of suspicion and fear around teens in the neighborhood. Richard knew that if you put a camera or a microphone in their hand, it changed the dynamic and they weren't scary anymore.
I think of Richard, showing up at like council hearings with other students and bringing posters and other like media that was designed by the young people.
The way he made us feel important, we were empowered enough to speak in front of everybody. And we just always felt like with Richard behind us, we could do anything.
I don't think people know how valuable Richard was for this community. They just didn't know. Richard is a very excellent role model to make our community a better place for the next generation. If we can have like 10 people like him, we will be in a better place.
It's nice to know that the group that I really appreciated being a part of as a young person, it still exists and it's still impacting a lot of lives.
The connection 20 years later is crucial. The message that he brought matters more so today than it did in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. It says to me that Richard was well loved.
Richard would be amazed that this organization and this work continues in this community. He thought of it as always a bit of an experiment. What would happen if? He approached it with a lot of curiosity and a soulful commitment and discernment.
Creating a space like this for young people to create media and resourcing it is a message to young people that you matter, where you don't just talk about how important your voices are, but we're going to give you a space for your voice to actually be developed and presented. It's proof that you're not just talking a good game.
Richard was able to show up in confidence and love, but clarity and integrity. And I think the more that we can impart some of that magic and that pixie dust onto the people we serve, I think we will have served them well.
I think he'd just be delighted to know that he's built this beautiful, beautiful community.
No matter what was going on, whether he just managed to smile through it all. When you can stay true to what the vision is, that guides you through the difficult times. And so that was a gift that he definitely left with me. And just that smile.
I think Richard's still here too. I believe that he's still a very strong part of the organization. His vision has lasted because he believed so strongly in that vision that other people joined him to create the kind of world that we all want to live in.
Definitely think Richard is proud of us. I think he's also proud that we're still connected to the community that we have built.
He gave everything to our community and to the next generation. The number of people who he has inspired to go on and do really great things all across the globe, frankly, is something that is special.
He was just kind of one of a kind. Like,
Wonderful dad. I think he had a big impact on other people's lives too.